Hi everyone, my name's Amy.
And I'm Charlotte.
I'm a second year English literature student here at the University of Reading,
And I'm a first year primary education with English student at Reading.
and we're here today to talk to you about budgeting and how you can save money as a university student. So we thought that we'd just start off by telling you about how you can sort of keep track of your finances and how to find a good place to start with budgeting. So a good place to start is to figure out how much money you actually have to spend. So nine times out of 10 as a student, you'll be going through student finance, if you're a student in the UK, and you'll receive a maintenance loan. Um, and you can put that money together with any sort of money from any paid part-time work, savings, grants and bursaries that you're eligible for. And then the biggest expense that you will have as a student living away from home is your living expenses and your rent. So if you just subtract this amount from your maintenance loan and any other money that you have to put on top of that, that gives you how much money you have left over to spend on everything else, such as like food and groceries, to your bills, to any other costs, such as buying textbooks and stuff for your course. Yeah. One of the ways that I find it's easy to budget how much money I have for a week as a student is by meal planning. So every single week, I make a meal plan of everything that I want to have for dinner that week. That is an easy way for me to figure out what I actually want to buy from my food shop. And another way of saving money that way is batch cooking. This also saves a lot of time, because you'll find that when you're a student, you might have lots of assignments and stuff you need to get done. So if on the weekend I make a big portion of like pasta bake, for example, I can put some of that aside in the fridge or freezer to have that later on in the week. Yeah, so that's a really good way of saving time and money. Um, Further to that is your food shopping. So, as well as batch cooking and meal planning and meal prepping, there are lots of ways to save money when you're grocery shopping. One of the easiest ways of doing this is swapping out all the big name brand food items with supermarket own brand items. And you'll find that those are nine times out of 10 so much cheaper than the name brand alternatives. And also, as we were saying before, if you create a shopping list that's based on a meal plan, that means that you know exactly what ingredients you need to buy, exactly what you have in your cupboards already. So when you walk into that supermarket, you know, I need to get this, this, and this, and you can save buying like impulse purchases. Um, but apart from saving money on your grocery shopping, there are lots of other ways you can save money in your day-to-day life as a student. These include cooking at home instead of ordering takeout or eating meals out. You can also use student discounts. So when you're shopping for more like luxury items, if you, I think that Charlotte's going to be talking about this later on, but if you use student discounts, that's an easy way of saving money, even if it's only 10%. Um, Getting a rail card is a really big one. I know that when I'm at uni, I want to go home a lot. So if I go home at the weekend, it saves lots of money on my train fare if I have a rail card. Um, where you can, if you borrow books from your university library or buy second-hand textbooks, you can cut down on costs. Um, so because I'm an English student, I have to read lots of different books every single week. If I bought all of those brand new, that would cost me an absolute fortune. So where I can, I borrow books from the library or buy them secondhand. Or in some cases, I've even swapped with an older student in the year above because they have the same reading list as me. Um, you can share household supplies with your new flatmates when you move in. If you all get on, things like washing up liquid, kitchen roll, toilet roll, you can put those, you can take it in turns buying them or put like a cash pool. So it saves money like that because you don't need to have eight bottles of washing up liquid on the kitchen sink. Like you only need one or two. um, Another way you can cut down costs is limiting any subscriptions you have, such as for big streaming services. When you're a student, money might be tight, so you might not be able to afford like Netflix and Prime and Disney Plus. So if you just choose which ones that you're going to watch the most, things like that, that's a really good way of keeping down costs. You can also opt for free activities like those run by your student union. Especially in the first couple of weeks of university, there's going to be so many free activities that are run during the day. And Charlotte will know this because she's just been a fresher. There's loads of things you can do, like in the daytime and in the evening, that'll be either free or much cheaper than if you wanted to go out in your uni town or, yeah, out on a day trip somewhere. I'm now going to hand over to Charlotte, who's going to talk to you about student discounts and finding bargains.
Okay, so we can see here, I'm going to talk a little bit about student discounts and shopping around and that sort of thing. So first of all, where can you look for student discounts? Nowadays, a lot of places won't just automatically give it to you. They want proof that you're a student from apps like Unidays and Student Beans. I definitely recommend signing up to them. And for some of them, you can actually sign up before you officially become a student. So for example, I signed up for Denelm Student Beans before I went to uni. So doing my uni shop for things like bedding and crockery and stuff like that, I managed to save a lot of money on that, which was so useful to know. Also shopping around, there are certain items that might be a lot more expensive in certain shops compared to others. So it's really worth looking at sort of bargain shops, places like B&M and Home Bargains and places like that to see if they offer cheaper alternatives. And in a lot of cases, they'll offer the same product for a less expensive cost, which is really good, especially for things that you're set on getting a branded version of. It's really useful to think about where you can cut costs in your spending. Are there things where you don't mind getting a lower cost option, or things that you realise you don't necessarily need anymore? For example, you could opt for, rather than buying like cotton wool for taking off your makeup, you could get the reusable ones where you just wash them and then you save money, and a little bit of expenses do add up over time. So it's really useful to think about where you can save money and where you can like limit your spending. Shopping around and saving money is so beneficial. Also working a part-time job, I've got quite a lot of experience from this because I was luckily able to transfer the job that I had in sixth form to uni, which was really easy and it made it a lot more convenient for me to work. It's worth considering for yourself whether part-time work is something that you need to do and whether you want to do, because ultimately it does mean a level of sacrifice. Obviously, the time that you're working, you can't be doing things that your flatmates or your friends might be doing, but equally you do gain because you get money for that, which you can spend on having fun and doing sort of uni student stuff. Lots of part-time work is available for uni students, such as hospitality, retail, tutoring, and then casual work. So for example, if you live somewhere with an arena nearby, you might be able to do work for football matches or gigs or things like that. You can also work for the university. I find this particularly helpful because they're all 0 hours contracts on behalf of the university, which means that if you have a week where you have an assignment deadline or exams or stuff like that, you're not going to be held to your contracted hours. So you'll be able to balance your work and your studies. This is really, really important because ultimately, if you choose to go to university, that should be your priority because you're spending a lot of money to be able to go to university. So making sure that wherever you work is able to accommodate for your studies and for your wider student lifestyle. I found that as someone that does work alongside uni, it's definitely a possible thing, especially because I worked through sixth form, so I was used to that sort of routine. But it meant sometimes there were certain things that I wasn't able to go to because I had work, but I just accepted that that's part of how it is. In a way, I quite liked working while at uni because it means I can meet new people, I can have new experiences, and I can also develop my professional experience. So I have more to put on my CV coming out of university. So here are some things to remember when you're thinking about working and budgeting and saving money. So how expensive is the rent in your uni town? Certain areas will be more expensive than others, so it's worth considering, especially when you're choosing unis, which one would suit you. Will your shop be cheaper at a different supermarket? For example, would you be better off going to a cheap supermarket like Aldi or Lidl? Or do you find that the items that you buy are the same price all over? Are you eligible for bus passes or rail cards? I know from my own experience that in Reading, if you sign up for the student bus tickets, you can save a lot of money, which is really useful to know, particularly if, like me, you're working, you need to get a bus to work, or for journeys into town to do shops and stuff like that. It's also worth considering what your regular expenses are. Things like a phone bill, car insurance, and your rent those are sort of non-negotiable expenses. You can't avoid them. So how are you going to be able to cover those finances? And also to be mindful of impulse purchases. As we said earlier, it's easy to fall into a trap of buying things like treats and buying things you don't really need and clothes and stuff like that. But you need to think before you buy. Are you going to be able to use that item regularly to justify the cost? Or are you better off leaving it a little while before you buy it for when you've been paid or when you've got some savings and so it's more financially viable? Thank you
Yeah,
so much for listening.
definitely. Thank you so much, everyone. Um, hopefully this has been helpful for you all. Um, yeah, thank you.
Thanks.